Now, one of the things about the original Legend of Zelda is that the game is in 8-bit, but Link's 8-bit appearance is not actually how he looks. It's just how his design translates into pixels. So there was a few different ways that Nintendo could go with the design of this. They could have taken the images from the manual, which has at least two different designs. One of kind of like a chubby, short little chibi kind of Link, and then another one that looks more like the art from A Link to the Past. And they could have just taken any piece of that key art and translated it into an amiibo, like they did with almost all of the other Legend of Zelda amiibo. But they decided that they would replicate his appearance as a 2D pixel sprite into 3D. And for me, I have always been curious about how certain aspects of his character would look in a 3D space. So it kind of fulfilled some of my childhood curiosities. And normally Nintendo is very faithful about their representations of these characters, but they actually put a key embellishment on this one, which is that if you're looking at Link from behind in the game, you see his back. But on the amiibo, they actually added an 8-bit sword that is attached to him, which I think is just stupendous. So I appreciate their commitment to the faithfulness of the design on the front. Nintendo has faced some criticisms in the past for having religious iconography in games, and historically there has always been the Christian cross on the front of Link's shield, and I have for a long time just wondered when Nintendo's finally gonna decide to patch this out, but they haven't, and they produced the amiibo with the authentic appearance. So I appreciate the shield crest, I appreciate the sword, and I love to be able to rotate this character into the diagonal positions that you never were able to really appreciate the design of this 8-bit. And I try to imagine what it was like for the people in the room to create what this would look like if it were actually a physical object that could represent space from all sides. And they delivered with this. So not only does it remind me of something that I really loved as a kid, but it expands upon it in a way that I really appreciate now as an adult.
And again, that's a solid argument. I believe you're wrong as far as why it's superior. Your argument on the amiibo and how they treated it, again, I feel like is 100% valid. But I'm just going to be the guy to say that there would be no Link without Mario. Mario started it all, and the 8-bit Mario amiibo is one of the most finely crafted amiibo I think Nintendo has ever produced, bar none. Now, when you look at Link, he has, especially if you look at him from the front, he has this kind of grotesque look to him. I mean, obviously he's made of blocks, but Mario, again, is more of an iconic character where even no matter where you look at him from the side, from the back, from the front, you can tell specifically what this character is doing, who he is, what franchise he belongs to. 8-bit Mario is also one of these very rare amiibo who's not touching the base any way, shape, or form. He's leaping through the air with this transparent, just kind of whitish, clear post sticking out from this absolutely stunning amiibo base that's one of the obviously classic green pipes from the Super Mario series. And this is another thing that amiibo really don't do very often, and that's really play around with the base. And the 8-bit Mario amiibo just absolutely killed it with this warp pipe design. It's one of these things that I wish Nintendo just did more of. We get these very kind of traditional bases on most amiibo. Occasionally, like with the Zelda one, it's going to be gray, or not gray, excuse me, gold and brown. But this is something they've actually transformed the base into something completely new altogether. It's one of the reasons I absolutely love this amiibo. And again, they released two of them, which makes it even better. I mean, you had the classic, and then you had the modern 8-bit Mario. So if you're a crazy collector, you could get both, or you could just get your favorite one. So you had more options there too. And again, I mentioned this before, Nintendo teased us with these three amiibo, and I do like Link. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Link's a bad amiibo in any way, shape, or form, but from an aesthetic point of view, I think the base alone sells why Mario is the superior amiibo.
The base is amazing. I'm going to concede that point, and it is the only amiibo in all of the collection to have that base, which is pretty awesome.
It's a pretty gnarly base for sure.
But to your point about him not touching the base in any way, you could also say that about 8-bit Link. He's not really touching his base either. He has the exact same clear
Oh
plastic
man,
support.
I just totally got myself on that one. He is leaping through the air, isn't he?
I don't know if he's leaping, but they did decide to give him like the same sort of
Yeah.
elevated position
I
as
never even
Mario.
noticed that. That's a very new thing that I just noticed here.
Because
I
they
feel like I
didn't
lose a
need to,
point.
right? Well, I don't know if you lose a point, but it's certainly not to Mario's credit because
That's
he
true.
doesn't.
Point taken. I concede to that point. So TJ, I'm curious now your thoughts on the functionality of 8-bit Link. What does he do? And I think you might win out on this one. Just kind of a spoiler
Yeah,
alert. But go ahead.
I don't think there's any way that I cannot win out on this one because when it comes to functionality, there is no amiibo that is more versatile than Link. And I mean Link in the general sense. And so 8-bit Link enjoys all of the same functionality as regular Link in any game where Link is compatible, except in Breath of the Wild, he does have unique and special functionality, which is most Legend of Zelda amiibo will spawn particular items randomly in treasure chests, and this one is no exception. So you can don the cap of the hero. You can also get the tunic of the hero and the trousers of the hero, which completes a set which allows Link in Breath of the Wild to wear the same clothes that Link wore in the original Legend of Zelda. And I think that callback to the first game ever is it's so touching to me and such a nice little thing to add to the game. In addition to that, you can also get, I don't know if this is the name of it, but I believe the sword of the hero or the hero sword,
Yeah.
which is the same blade that is depicted in the concept art from the first Legend of Zelda. So if you want to play Smash Brothers and you want an amiibo, you could use this Link and then you play as Link. Or you can spawn him into Mario Maker, or you could get the costume in Mario Kart. You have all the trappings of every Link amiibo, plus with the added bonus of the special Breath of the Wild bit.
Again, impressive. Link is by far the most created amiibo with 14 and counting. I might be wrong.
It's up there. It's up there.
Yeah, it's a big number. But again, Mario is in line for second place for the most amiibo and counting at this point too. And I would say that Mario probably has the second most compatibility outside of Link in most games. Obviously, Mario is compatible in Super Smash Brothers. The 8-bit Mario amiibo does work there too. I think one of the cooler things you could do, I believe 8-bit Mario... Does 8-bit Mario unlock the 8-bit Mario costume in Mario Odyssey? Or is that separate? That might be separate.
I'm not sure on that one.
Now I got to go back and look. I'm going to have to throw that point out because I can't guarantee it at this point. But keep that in mind, dear listeners and watchers. It might unlock that. Otherwise, in Mario Maker, that's when this thing was initially announced anyway, about 5 years ago. Man, that's crazy, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
This would unlock a super mushroom that would make Mario absolutely massive, which was a really cool kind of thing to add into Mario Maker. And then there was some costumes you could get for Mario Kart 8, Yoshi's Woolly World, which had costumes for pretty much everything. I think Link does something in that one too. So obviously, I think you win on this round. I want to argue that you don't, but from a compatibility standpoint, I think 8-bit Link is probably going to take the cake, which I'm not doing myself any favors by admitting that. But Mario does a lot of cool things too.
He does. And if you had to pick two amiibo, then Mario would certainly be your second choice because he's, as you mentioned, going to give you the second most cool bits to do.
Now, I still feel, and I'm going to just go straight into my kind of conclusion on why you should go my route. Yes, the compatibility at this point might not be as great, but really, if you're an amiibo collector like me, and again, I know a lot of people are amiibo collectors like me, you're not getting these things for functionality. You're getting them because they look amazing on a shelf. And look at this base. This base screams this is a high-quality, one-of-a-kind amiibo. And Link just doesn't do it. This base on 8-bit Link is on every other Legend of Zelda amiibo out there. It's not unique. It's not special. It's not a warp pipe. This thing's amazing. That's why I think you should pick this one. I rest my case.
In closing, while I do take your point about the Mario one looking special, he's standing there on his warp pipe pedestal. It does make him stand out as being something special. But I actually think the fact that Link has the same base as all the other Legend of Zelda amiibo, as you said, is actually to his credit, because he looks amazing amongst the other Legend of Zelda amiibo. It's a cohesive collection, whereas the 8-bit Mario is always going to stand out. You can put him next to the other Mario amiibo, and he looks like something separate and different. So he doesn't really have the same kind of compatible aesthetic with the rest of the collection. So I love seeing all of my different Links lined up and looking nice. And while it would be cool if the 8-bit Link had some kind of special embellished gold base, I'm kind of glad that they went the route of conformity so that they all look uniform, because then it gives you this great final image as you got them all lined up next to each other on the shelf.
Point
Hero
taken.
TJ rests his case.
TJ, you're a formidable opponent on this one. But again, this is not up to me and you. This is up to the audience. If you're watching this video on YouTube, or I guess if you're listening to this podcast, head over to YouTube, find this video, and let us know in the comments below your thought on who won this one. Do you think 8-bit Mario or 8-bit Link is the superior amiibo? Let us know. We will let you know on next week's podcast who the winner is.
Awesome.